Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. I still remember that evening like it was yesterday. The golden light poured through our bedroom window as he stood there, quiet, thoughtful. We'd been married for 5 years, and even though we'd shared everything from silly laughs to deep sorrows, what he asked me that night on our bed was something I never thought I'd hear from him. And even more surprising, I found myself considering it. Our story isn't about drama or betrayal. No, it's about love, the kind that grows quietly over time. The kind that surprises you just when you think you know everything about your partner. My husband, Aiden, isn't the kind of man who usually asks for much. He's calm, dependable, romantic in his own gentle way. But that night, there was a different kind of energy between us. Something unspoken. And when he finally opened his mouth, his words shifted everything between us. Now, before you start guessing, let me be clear, this isn't some wild fantasy. It's a very real, very human story about trust, love, and stepping outside our comfort zones to truly connect. Sometimes, even in the most loving relationships, we hold back parts of ourselves. Fears. Fantasies. Emotions we don't always know how to explain. That night, Aiden chose to be completely honest with me. And what he asked, it was bold. Unexpected. But it came from a place of vulnerability, not demand. What would you do if the person you loved the most looked you in the eyes and asked for something that made your heart race, not from fear, but from uncertainty? That moment, frozen in time, made me question everything I thought I knew about my role as his wife. Not in a negative way, but in a deeply eye-opening one. This wasn't about control or crossing boundaries. It was about intimacy, real, raw connection. As I looked into his eyes, I could tell he wasn't sure how I'd react. Would I laugh it off? Would I get offended? Or would I surprise us both? You might think you know how you'd respond. But trust me, when it's your moment, and your partner, things feel very different. So, I want to ask you, have you ever been in a situation where love asked you to be more open, more vulnerable, more daring than you expected? If yes, drop your story in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Or vote in the poll, would you say yes to something completely out of your norm for love? And just when I thought I had made up my mind, he leaned in and whispered something else, something that left me absolutely speechless. Glowing star, stay tuned for part 1 of our story. He asked me for something I never thought I'd agree to / on bed. Speech balloon, don't forget to like, comment, and tell me, how far would you go for love? For a moment, there was silence between us. The kind that isn't empty, but full. Full of unspoken feelings, of questions swirling in my mind. Aiden had just whispered something that made my pulse quicken. It wasn't just the words, it was the way he said them, so calm and yet so vulnerable. I kept staring at him, wondering when this shift had happened between us. When did we become these two people who shared everything, yet still had so much to discover about each other? We met in college, both studying architecture, both obsessed with quiet cafes and rainy afternoons. Back then, our love was all about long walks, handwritten notes, and slow kisses under street lamps. Over the years, life became busier, careers, routines, responsibilities, but our bond stayed strong. Still, in the comfort of our everyday life, I never expected him to carry this secret desire. And now, sitting here, just the two of us, I was seeing a new side of the man I thought I knew so well. He didn't rush me. He just watched me with those calm brown eyes, letting me feel what I needed to feel. And I felt everything. Surprise, curiosity, a flutter of nervous excitement, and oddly an unexpected sense of closeness. The kind you feel only when someone dares to be completely real with you. What he asked wasn't wrong. It wasn't dangerous. It was intimate. But it was something I'd never imagined myself saying yes to. Not because I didn't love him, but because it challenged the image I had of who we were, of who I was. I asked him softly, "Why now?" He smiled faintly, rubbing the back of his neck the way he always does when he's nervous. "Because I trust you," he said. "And because I want us to explore all parts of us, together." His words stayed with me. They wrapped around me like a warm blanket and echoed in my head. This wasn't just about the request. This was about growth. About opening a door we hadn't opened before. I still hadn't answered him, but in that moment, something had already shifted inside me. And just when I was about to speak, a message buzzed on his phone. He glanced at it, then locked the screen quickly. Too quickly. Something in his expression changed, and just like that, the moment was interrupted. Now I wasn't just wondering about his question. I was wondering what he wasn't telling me. The soft hum of the ceiling fan was the only sound in the room after that message alert. Aiden had barely glanced at his phone, but the way he quickly turned the screen over and avoided eye contact didn't sit right with me. My heart, which had been floating somewhere between confusion and warmth, suddenly dropped a little. It wasn't like him to hide things, at least not before tonight. And now, the combination of his unexpected request and that strange moment with the phone, it stirred something deeper inside me. I didn't ask right away. I just watched him, trying to read the silence in his eyes. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. Relationships, especially marriage, live in the little details, what's said, what's not, what's hesitated. And tonight was full of hesitation. He finally broke the silence with a soft chuckle, as if trying to lighten the mood. "You don't have to say anything now," he said, reaching for my hand. "I didn't mean to throw it on you like that." I nodded slowly, but the weight of his words, and now the phone, hung between us like a shadow we couldn't quite shake. I turned my attention back to his request, trying to make sense of it. It wasn't wrong. It wasn't even something that would make anyone gasp. But it was personal. It would require trust, vulnerability, and me stepping into a version of our relationship I hadn't thought about before. What made it more complicated was that his timing felt off. Like something had triggered this, or maybe someone. And that's when a quiet thought crept into my mind. Was this idea something he'd been carrying for a while, or had someone else influenced it? Was this about us, or about something or someone else? Just then, his phone lit up again. This time, he didn't pick it up. He just glanced at it for a split second, then looked away. But I saw the name. Nora. My stomach tightened. Nora was his coworker. Kind, always smiling, and always a little too friendly during office parties. I'd never suspected anything before. But now, the coincidence was too much. He noticed me staring at the phone and said quickly, "It's nothing. Work stuff." But the tension in his voice didn't match his words. At that moment, a part of me wanted to believe him blindly. But another part, the woman who had loved him for years, felt something wasn't adding up. And when you love someone deeply, your instincts whisper things before your mind can explain them. So now, the question was no longer just about what he asked me. It was about why he asked, and what he might be hiding behind that soft smile. Tell me in the comments, what do you think Nora's role really is? Is it all in her friendliness, or is there something more going on? And would you trust your partner if something like this happened? I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, his voice echoed in my mind, "I want us to explore all parts of us, together." And yet, the presence of Nora's name on his screen replayed just as loud. My heart was torn between trust and doubt, between love and the fear that maybe something was slipping through my fingers without me realizing. The next morning, Aiden acted like nothing had changed. He made coffee, kissed my forehead, even joked about the laundry piling up. But underneath his calm, I saw it, he was waiting. Waiting for my answer to his request. Waiting for me to either lean into it or pull away. And me. I was playing it cool, but my mind was racing. I thought about Nora. I remembered how Aiden had once mentioned she was easy to talk to. I didn't think much of it then, he's always been open with people, but now, I couldn't help but question every conversation they'd had. Was she just a friend? Was she the reason behind his new desire to try something different? Or was this just my fear twisting things? Later that evening, when he came home from work, he brought takeout from my favorite Thai place. He even lit a candle on the table, like we used to do when we were still figuring each other out in our tiny apartment. It was sweet, thoughtful. But instead of warming me, it only made the distance between us more obvious. Because now, I didn't know if he was trying to get closer to me, or trying to ease the guilt of something else. After dinner, we ended up back on the bed where it all started. The room was quiet again, but not peaceful, tense. Like both of us were waiting for the other to say something that would either heal or hurt. I finally asked the question that had been burning inside me. If I say no, will you still look at me the same way? He didn't answer right away. He just stared at me, the candlelight flickering in his eyes. And then his phone buzzed again. The same name. Nora. Only this time, he picked it up. What do you think happened next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you confront him now or wait? Do you think this is about trust or betrayal? Aiden picked up the phone, hesitated, then swiped it open. He didn't say anything. He just stared at the screen for a few seconds, his thumb hovering over it. I watched him, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear the room anymore. It wasn't just the message. It was the fact that he looked guilty. Not caught doing something terrible, but caught hiding something he never meant to explain. I didn't speak, I wanted to see what he would do next. But that silence, it felt like a countdown. Finally, he glanced at me and said, "It's nothing. Just something Nora sent from the office group." His voice was even, but too practiced. I waited. Then asked, "Can I see it?" That changed everything. He tensed, locked the phone, and placed it face down again. "Aiden," I said, more firmly now. "If it's nothing, why can't I see it?" He didn't meet my eyes. "Because it'll only make things more complicated. And I don't want you getting the wrong idea." That was the wrong thing to say. Because now, every doubt that had been simmering inside me rushed to the surface. I stood up from the bed, walked to the window to breathe, my hands shaking not from anger, but from fear. What had I been pulled into? Was his request about deepening our connection, or was it rooted in someone else already occupying a space in his mind? And just when I thought things couldn't get more twisted, my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. But curiosity, or maybe fate, made me glance. A message. Unknown number. It read, "You don't know the full truth. He hasn't told you everything. Ask him about the cabin weekend." I froze. My blood ran cold. The cabin weekend. That was when he said he was away with some friends from work, something casual. I never thought twice about it. He came back relaxed, smiling, even more affectionate than usual. But now, that weekend had a name. A red flag. I turned around slowly, staring at him. He was still sitting on the bed, looking down, completely unaware of what I'd just read. "What happened at the cabin?" I asked. His head snapped up. "What?" "You heard me." I held up my phone. "Who was there, Aiden?" His face went pale. And then, for the first time that night, he couldn't speak. This was no longer about the request. This wasn't about Nora. This was about trust cracking in places I didn't know existed. And I had no idea if our love was strong enough to survive what came next. What do you think happened at the cabin? Was it just a misunderstanding, or is Aiden hiding more than one secret? Let me know in the comments, what would you do if you were in my place? The room felt colder now, though nothing had changed except the weight of the silence. Aiden finally stood up, his eyes searching mine as if looking for a way out of this moment. "It wasn't what you think," he said quietly, his voice raw. "I didn't cheat. I swear. But I did lie. About the cabin. I waited, barely breathing. He rubbed his hands together nervously and continued. That weekend, it wasn't just co-workers. It was part of a private retreat Nora invited me to. It was about relationships, open dynamics, exploring new emotional boundaries. He hesitated. And I went because I was curious. I didn't do anything. But I thought about things I'd never dared to think before. Things I didn't even know how to tell you. His words landed heavy. It wasn't betrayal in the traditional sense. It was emotional distance. Secrets. That weekend had opened something in him, and instead of bringing it home to me honestly, he brought back a version of it hidden behind smiles and comfort food. So your request, I said slowly, was about that. He nodded. It's not about Nora. It's about me. Us. I've changed, and I didn't know how to bring you along without scaring you. I stood there, torn between heartbreak and understanding. He hadn't crossed a physical line, but an emotional one. Maybe. He'd asked me to explore a new side of our relationship, but without telling me where that desire was coming from. And that kind of half-truth cuts deep. But just as I felt myself beginning to process it all, my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. This time, the message read, "You believe him now. But you still don't know who invited him to that retreat." My stomach flipped. Was it Nora who invited you? I asked, watching his face. He paused. And then, slowly shook his head. No, he said, a strange sadness in his voice. It wasn't her. Then who? He looked at me, really looked at me, and whispered, "It was someone from your past." And in that instant, everything shifted again. Who do you think it was? What would you do if the twist led back to your past instead of your partner's? Comment your theory and stay tuned, because this story, it's far from over. My chest tightened as I stared at him, the weight of his words crashing into me like a wave I never saw coming. Someone from my past? How could that be possible? I sat down slowly, my mind racing through old memories, faces, and moments I had buried long ago. And then it hit me, Elena. A friend I used to be close with before Aiden and I got serious. She had always been curious about relationships, always questioning love and loyalty in a way that felt more like testing than learning. We had lost touch years ago after a falling out, but I remembered once telling her everything about Aiden, his calm, his charm, how safe he made me feel. She reached out to me online a few months ago, Aiden said gently. Said she used to know you, said she ran a private group now for couples who wanted to grow closer emotionally. I thought it was a chance to learn something deeper about myself, for us. I stared at the floor. Elena. She wasn't just from my past, she had entered his present. A connection I never would have imagined, and yet now it made sense. The retreat, the phone messages, the shift in Aiden's emotional world. It didn't excuse the secrecy, but it explained the why. And sometimes, when love is strained, understanding is more healing than blame. I wish you'd told me, I said finally, not with anger, but with tired honesty. I know, he whispered, sitting beside me. I was scared you'd think I wanted someone else. When all I ever wanted was more of us. We sat in silence, fingers just barely touching. The storm had passed, but the damage lingered in the form of questions neither of us knew how to answer fully. But there was one truth that remained: he had chosen me to come back to, even after his emotional wandering. And I was still sitting here, not walking away. That night, we didn't fix everything. But we talked. Really talked. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like we were both showing up without walls. Love is strange like that. It bends, it breaks, and sometimes it bruises quietly. But when it's real, it doesn't walk out just because it's hard. So maybe this wasn't the story I thought I'd tell. But maybe, just maybe, it's the story that needed to be told. How did this ending make you feel? Would you forgive someone for keeping secrets in the name of love? Let me know in the comments. And if you want a sequel to this story, say it below. I read everything.